The collar construction, as with our facing, requires the insertion of interfacing in order to strengthen the inner part of the collar, especially as the garment is worn. The longer the garment is worn, the softer the fabric can become, and if it does not have the interfacing, the stability will not be strong. To affix the interfacing, the first thing that we are going to need to do is a process called tailor basting. You will have two pieces of your fashion fabric. One will be your upper collar, one will be your lower collar. Normally they are identically the same size. They are normally cut double. And so you will have upper collar, lower collar, and then a piece of interfacing that is cut the same size as the collar piece from the actual collar piece. The tailor basting is a temporary stitch that will hold the interfacing to the fashion fabric so that it does not slip during the construction process. You will pin your interfacing to your fashion fabric, placing the interfacing against the wrong side of the fashion fabric. Pin your interfacing on so it is going toward the neck edge of the collar. You will then want a contrasting color of thread, and you will not want to knot it. Once the interfacing is pinned to the fashion fabric, you are going to keep both layers, fashion fabric and interfacing, against the table. Come into your fashion fabric and take one more tiny stitch backwards just to secure it. Again, we do not want a knot. You are then going to point your needle to the left or the lower edge of the collar, and you are going to come in, take a stitch, and pull the thread through. Go down. The stitches are large so that they come out easily. Stitch, come down. Continuing to keep your needle pointed to the left, stitch, come down. The interfacing is attached with the tailor basting so that neither side is coming into the seam allowance. As you start your tailor basting, you will want to make sure that it is at least an inch in from the edge of your fabric. In the second row, you will want to make sure that it does not come too close to the edge. Once you reach the bottom, just go ahead and make another stitch, cut it off. The tailor basting will stay in your garment construction until the final step is done with the understitching. It then is removed and the collar is pressed one final time. Your first sample that you will find for your collar construction is tailor basting, and it will actually show the label of tailor basting, a single layer of your fashion fabric, your interfacing attached with a contrasting color of thread. Once you have your tailor basting completed, you are then ready to actually start your construction of your collar. And this is a curved collar. You can have many different shapes of collars, and the procedure is the same for each one of them. The first step is to stitch your collar edge 5/8 of an inch all the way around, leaving the neck edge open. That is the area with which we will turn it. Once it is stitched, you are going to grade the seam. The edge that is closest to the stitching line of the interfacing is going to be trimmed approximately 1/2 of the length of the seam allowance. As you did with the facing sample, be sure to keep your shears flat against the table as you are trimming. It is simplest to start at the middle of the collar, especially on a curved collar, and to go then from the center to the upper edge. Go back, center to the upper edge. The second seam is then trimmed just a little bit longer so that you have your interfacing trimmed, you have your fashion fabric trimmed approximately 1 inch, 1/2 of the 5/8 of an inch seam, and then the final stitch or the final seam edge will be a little bit longer than that. Clip approximately every 3/8 of an inch all the way around the curved area. The more dramatic the curve is, the more you will want to clip. If you are making a pointed collar, at the point you will want to cut that blunt so that when you turn it, you don't have a lot of extra fabric that is there. Once that particular step is done, you are going to take the collar back to the sewing machine. You are going to start in the middle of the collar. Pull all of the trimmed edges toward the interfacing. Put your needle against the side of the collar that has the interfacing attached, and begin to stitch from the center as far into the curve as you can get. If the curve is very dramatic, you will probably not be able to go all the way to the edge, but go as far as you can. Cut off your threads, turn the collar around, go back to the center, and stitch from the center to the other edge. When it is completely stitched, you will want to make sure that nothing has gotten caught in the understitching process. You will then very carefully pick out your tailor basting, and you will then take your collar to the ironing board and press the collar smoothly. As you turn it over then, you will see the row of understitching on the wrong side of the collar. As you look at the right side, you will not see any stitching. As you feel it, you'll see that the collar does not easily roll back now because the interfacing has secured all of the trimmed edges and the clipped edges to the underside of the collar. For the collar sample, you're going to have 2 different steps in addition to your tailor basting sample. You will have the tailor basting. You will then have a second collar piece that will have the 2 pieces of fashion fabric and interfacing with the tailor basting still in place. Half of the collar is going to be your original stitching, so you can identify what was the original width of the seam. The second will be the trimmed edge with it clipped. And then you will go through that entire process one more time so that you have a completed collar. In essence, then, you are cutting out 2 full collars and 1 piece of fashion fabric for your tailor basting.